Welcome to Neville Manifestation, a space where you learn to master your inner world and let life align effortlessly. If you're ready to go deeper, join our membership and become part of a community that practices calm, certainty, and real transformation every single day. My friends, stay centered. Not because life has suddenly become easier, and not because the world has decided to cooperate with you, but because you've realized something far more powerful than reacting to everything around you. You've discovered that your inner state is where true power lives, and nothing outside of you has any control unless you give it that control. The moment this really clicks, you begin to notice something interesting. Things around you start shifting, sometimes in ways that feel surprising, yet strangely natural at the same time. Most people believe peace comes after everything improves. They wait for proof, for confirmation, for life to look stable before they allow themselves to relax. But the truth runs deeper than that. Life begins to improve the moment you relax. The moment you stop demanding that things change before you feel at ease, everything starts reorganizing. You step into a quiet kind of authority. You stop chasing outcomes, and instead, outcomes begin moving toward you. Being unbothered doesn't mean you're cold or disconnected. It means you're grounded. It means your peace is no longer up for negotiation. It means you're no longer reacting from old patterns. Instead, you respond from a place of calm confidence. And when that shift happens, the world around you adjusts to match it. Every disturbance you face is not created by the situation itself, but by the meaning you assign to it. Two people can go through the exact same experience, yet one falls apart while the other remains steady. That difference isn't about intelligence or strength. It comes down to assumption. One person believes the situation controls them. The other understands they are the source of authority. When you stay unbothered, you're silently declaring something powerful. You're saying, this doesn't define me. This doesn't decide my outcome. This doesn't touch my inner knowing. You don't even need to say it out loud. It's felt. And what you feel impresses itself onto reality. Life doesn't respond to emotional chaos. It responds to emotional certainty. The more steady and still you are inside, the faster things begin to fall into place. Most people spend their time trying to negotiate emotionally with life. They stress so they can feel prepared. They react so they can feel in control. But all of that only reinforces the belief that life is happening to them. The unbothered person understands something different. They know that attention creates direction, that emotion is instruction, and that whatever you consistently hold inside eventually becomes your experience. So instead of suppressing feelings, they guide them with intention. When something unexpected happens, they don't rush to label it. They pause. They stay neutral. They refuse to assign meaning too quickly. And in that space, reality begins to reshape itself. That's where real transformation begins. Not in force, not in panic, but in composure. A miracle isn't something unnatural. It's simply what happens when your assumption changes and closes the gap between where you are and what you want. It happens when you stop looking for proof and start living from knowing. When you stay unbothered, you're no longer fighting the present moment. You're not feeding energy into what you don't want. You're quietly living as someone who is already complete. And the world, which always reflects what it receives, starts to rearrange accordingly. Think about how often reacting slows everything down. Anxiety keeps things stuck. Overthinking closes doors. Emotional chaos traps you in cycles that repeat. But calm expectation moves things forward. Quiet confidence attracts what you need. Inner neutrality removes what was in the way. Staying unbothered isn't passive. It's one of the most disciplined inner practices you can have. It asks you to trust what you've accepted within more than what your senses are showing you outside. It asks you to believe that what you've assumed is already unfolding, even if you can't see it yet. That's why people who stay composed often experience sudden breakthroughs. Opportunities appear without struggle. People change without confrontation. Problems resolve without clear explanation. To others, it looks like luck, but from within, it feels natural, like something that was already set in motion. Because once you stop feeding the old story with your reactions, it loses its strength. Your world is always reflecting your inner conversations. When you shift from asking why this is happening to me to knowing this is already working for me, everything changes direction. When you stop emotionally fighting your circumstances, you take away the energy that keeps them alive. What isn't fed cannot continue. Being unbothered also means you don't panic during quiet phases. You don't spiral when nothing seems to be happening. You understand that unseen progress is still progress. Roots grow in silence. Seeds open in darkness. The biggest changes happen long before they are visible. So you remain steady. You don't chase signs. You don't keep asking when. You don't imagine failure. You assume it's already done, and you live from that place now. This is where everything begins to accelerate. When your inner world no longer contradicts what you want, things start aligning. Most people unintentionally cancel their own progress. They say they want clarity but dwell in confusion. They imagine success but react with frustration at every delay. But the unbothered person doesn't do that. They understand that consistency of state matters more than bursts of effort. They choose calm repeatedly. They return to faith again and again. They stay grounded even when emotions try to pull them away. And because of that, reality stabilizes around them. You'll notice something else too. The way people interact with you begins to change. Conversations shift. Respect grows without you forcing it. Tension dissolves without confrontation. This doesn't happen because you demanded it. It happens because your state communicates authority. Calm is magnetic. Composure influences. People respond to who you are being, not just what you're asking for. And often, what we call miracles show up in ordinary ways. A random conversation opens a door. A delay protects you. A rejection redirects you somewhere better. The unbothered person doesn't see these as coincidences. They recognize them as alignment. When you're no longer desperate emotionally, your perception becomes clear. You start seeing what was always there. Being unbothered also means letting go of needing to control how things happen. The urge to control comes from fear. Trust comes from knowing. When you trust your inner acceptance, you allow life to surprise you. And the best outcomes often come when you're not trying to control every detail. This doesn't mean doing nothing. It means your actions come from alignment, not anxiety. You move when it feels right, not when fear pushes you. You speak from clarity, not reaction. Your actions become precise and effort decreases while results increase. That's the paradox. The less you interfere emotionally, the faster things resolve. The more settled you are within, the more smoothly life rearranges itself outside. What we call miracles aren't breaking any laws. They are the result of a higher law responding to your assumption instead of your struggle. When you stay unbothered, you stop being shaped by the world. You begin shaping it. You stop asking what if this fails and start living as if it's already done. Not loudly, not for show, but quietly, naturally, with a calm confidence that becomes part of who you are. And that calm becomes the instruction. Reality follows it. There will be moments when old habits try to pull you back, when your mind wants to overanalyze, when emotions start building. In those moments, you don't fight yourself. You simply return to your center. You remind yourself that nothing outside of you can affect your inner knowing unless you allow it. Every time you choose stillness, you strengthen it. Over time, being unbothered is no longer something you practice. It becomes who you are. Problems stop feeling personal. Delays stop feeling final. Challenges stop feeling permanent. You begin to understand that everything outside is temporary, but your inner state is always yours to choose. So you choose fulfillment. You choose completion. You move as if you're supported. You speak as if your voice matters. You decide as if you're guided. You rest as if your foundation is secure. And life reflects that back to you, not randomly, but precisely. The real miracle is not just that things change, but that they change because you didn't lose your center. When you remain steady, life begins to move in your favor. When you stay unbothered, everything reorganizes around your quiet authority. You trust what you cannot yet see, and eventually what is visible follows. And one day, when you look back, you'll realize the moment everything changed wasn't when you tried harder. It was the moment you finally settled into knowing. Even now, something inside you recognizes this, not as an idea, not as motivation, but as something you've always known. There is something deeply familiar about the idea of staying unbothered. Almost like a quiet truth inside you has always known that peace was never something waiting at the end of a long struggle. It was always available the moment you became clear enough to see it. The moment you stop resisting life, life stops resisting you. What we often call problems are not warnings at all. They are moments that test what you believe about yourself. They show up to reveal whether you will fall back into the old version of you that reacts, doubts, and resists, or if you will remain steady in the state you have consciously chosen. Every moment gives you that choice, and each time you choose calm instead of chaos, you strengthen a new identity, one that does not break under pressure. Holding your composure during uncertainty is not denial, it is a decision. It is you saying that your inner world matters more than whatever is shifting outside of you. And because reality responds to whatever you treat as your reference point, it begins to adjust itself to match your inner state. This is why emotional control is not about suppressing what you feel. It is about choosing what deserves your attention. You decide which thoughts you believe, which emotions you focus on, and which meanings you give to situations. Over time, what you choose consistently becomes automatic. Eventually, calm is no longer something you practice, it becomes who you are. When calm becomes your identity, urgency loses its grip on you. Fear may still appear, but it does not stay. Impatience fades because you are no longer separated from what you desire. You already feel it within yourself, and the outside world simply starts catching up. Notice how life begins to move differently when you stop watching it with anxiety. When you stop constantly checking for signs or measuring progress every hour, something opens up. People become easier, situations soften, opportunities appear in ways you did not expect, not because you forced them, but because you allowed them. Being unbothered carries a quiet certainty. It says, "This is already done, and I do not need proof." And that certainty works because it is relaxed. It does not chase or demand. It simply rests in knowing. Pressure creates delays. Ease allows movement. That is why forced positivity does not work, but quiet confidence does. Life does not respond to words said with tension. It responds to what you genuinely feel when you are still. When there is no inner argument, the outer resistance begins to disappear. There will be moments when what you see does not match what you believe. In the past, you might have reacted, overthought, or fallen back into doubt. But now you understand something deeper. What looks like contradiction is often just transition. Reality is rearranging itself, and that process can look messy before it becomes clear. So you stay steady. You understand that the path between where you are and where you are going is not always comfortable, but it is always moving. You do not need to see every step. You only need to stay loyal to the state you have chosen. Being unbothered also means you stop taking everything personally. You stop seeing delays as rejection or silence as failure. You begin to trust that life does not need your constant control to work in your favor. You let people be who they are without carrying their emotions. You allow situations to unfold without narrating every detail. You stop treating time like an enemy. And this is not weakness. This is confidence. It is the knowing that what is meant for you cannot miss you. When you live from that place, you stop chasing outcomes and start attracting them. Things begin to shift in small but meaningful ways. Problems resolve without effort. Conversations go better than expected. Opportunities appear from nowhere. These are not accidents. They are reflections of the steady certainty you have been holding inside. You start to realize that miracles were never rare. You were just too caught up to notice them before. Now that you are calm, you can see them clearly. You are no longer trying to prove yourself to life. You are no longer convincing yourself that things will work out. You simply know that they do. That quiet knowing shapes everything. This is how your inner state becomes your reality. Not through struggle, but through consistency. And what matters most is how you feel when no one is watching. Because that private state is what builds your visible world. When your inner silence is calm, your outer life begins to cooperate. So you continue choosing calm, choosing trust, choosing stillness over and over again. Not as a technique, but as a way of being. As this way of living becomes natural, something powerful happens. Your emotions stop rising and falling with every external event. You still feel, but your feelings no longer control you. Thoughts come, but you do not believe all of them. Situations happen, but you do not rush to label them as good or bad. The space between what happens and how you respond becomes your greatest power. In that space, you choose not to fall apart when answers are slow. You choose not to explain yourself when silence is enough. You choose not to defend your worth when you already know it. These choices may seem small, but they change everything. Because life is not responding to events themselves, it is responding to the meaning you give those events. When you remain unbothered, you are quietly saying to life, "I trust this process because I trust myself." And that trust changes everything. It removes resistance. It allows things to align in ways you cannot always see. You begin to feel that things are working out even when you are resting, that what you want is moving toward you even while you sleep, that solutions are forming without you having to control every detail. This creates a deep sense of ease, not because you do not care, but because you are certain. You stop imagining failure. You stop preparing for things to go wrong. You understand that your imagination shapes your reality, so you stop using it against yourself. Instead, you imagine from a place of already having, from stability, from confidence, from certainty. And because imagination is the blueprint, life begins to build around what you consistently hold inside. Being unbothered also changes how you relate to people. You no longer depend on their reactions to feel secure. You do not need their approval to feel grounded. You listen more, you speak less. And when you do speak, your words carry weight. Not because they are loud, but because they come from calmness. People feel that, even if they cannot explain it. Conversations become easier. Conflict fades before it even begins. And even when others are emotional, your stability remains. This is what true influence looks like. It does not come from control or force. It comes from mastering your inner state. At first, staying unbothered may feel like something you have to remind yourself to do. You may still react and then bring yourself back. But over time, the gap between reaction and awareness grows. Awareness starts to lead. And when awareness leads, what once felt like miracles no longer surprise you. They become natural. They become expected. Because you finally understand that nothing outside of you was ever in control. It was always you. Here is your fully rewritten and paraphrased continuation, keeping the meaning intact while making it sound natural, smooth, and original. They begin to feel natural, almost expected. You start trusting timing instead of trying to fight against it. There's no more need to force answers or push your way through situations that aren't ready. When something doesn't move, you no longer see it as resistance. You understand it as redirection or as preparation for something that needs more space than the present moment allows. Because your emotions are steady, you can actually feel the difference. That clarity becomes one of the biggest rewards of staying composed. You stop confusing urgency with importance. You stop mistaking constant activity for real progress. You realize that the biggest changes don't start on the outside. They begin quietly within you, long before they show up in your physical reality. So you keep living your life. You handle your responsibilities, connect with people, and stay engaged with the world, but from a different place within yourself. A calmer place, a more grounded center. You are present but not overwhelmed, focused but not tense, involved but not tangled up in everything happening around you. And life responds to that balance with precision. The things you were searching for show up when you stop chasing them. Answers come when you stop repeating the same questions over and over. The message you were waiting for arrives right after you've let go of needing it. Situations resolve in ways you could never have planned. Not because you tried harder, but because you stopped creating resistance. When you are unbothered, you remove that friction. And without friction, things naturally begin to move. You start to see that many of the obstacles you once faced were not really external. They were reflections of tension you were holding inside yourself. Now that tension has softened, everything feels different. Life feels less like something you have to push through and more like something that unfolds on its own. Your mind is quieter when you wake up. Your days feel lighter without constant overthinking. At night, you rest without replaying everything or worrying about what's coming next. Your body begins to understand that it's safe to relax because you are no longer treating uncertainty like a threat. And from that calm state, real creation begins to flow. You stop trying to rush results. You allow things to come together. You stop searching for signs and start recognizing alignment when it naturally appears. You're no longer questioning your direction. You simply move forward in it. Step by step, moment by moment, this unbothered way of being grows deeper. It starts shaping your reality from the inside out. And as it deepens, you begin to notice just how much energy you used to waste on resistance. It was never just about doing too much. The exhaustion came from fighting reality, worrying about the future, and replaying the past. Letting go of that inner struggle gives you your energy back. Your focus sharpens. Your presence becomes something people can feel without you saying anything. Decisions don't feel heavy anymore. You don't force clarity. You just sense what the next step is. When something isn't meant for you, you don't feel loss. When something is meant for you, you don't feel panic. There's a quiet knowing within you that tells you nothing valuable requires desperation, and nothing real requires chasing. This changes how you experience time. You stop living in what-if scenarios or being stuck in what already happened. You begin to fully live in the moment you are actually in, and that present moment is where everything is created. Being unbothered keeps you grounded there, not lost in imagined futures, not weighed down by the past, just here, aware, steady, and open. From that place, you start seeing opportunities that were always there but invisible when your mind was restless. You also begin to understand something deeper. The way you used to react was teaching life how to respond to you. When you pushed with urgency, life gave you more urgency. When you doubted, life reflected more reasons to doubt. When you became emotionally overwhelmed, life mirrored that instability back to you. Now that your reactions have softened, life adjusts. It meets you differently. This doesn't mean challenges disappear. It means they no longer reach your core. You deal with them without letting them define you. You move through them without carrying them forward. They don't stay because you don't hold on to them. You realize that anything that shows up only stays as long as you keep giving it emotional energy. And that realization is freeing. You stop clinging to the highs or fearing the lows. You stay balanced, understanding that balance is what keeps everything moving forward. There's a quiet maturity in this, a calm confidence that doesn't need to prove itself or be seen. You stop explaining your peace to people who are used to chaos. You let your energy speak for itself, and it does. People may not understand how you stay steady when things are uncertain. They may wonder why you don't react the way they expect, why you move as if everything is already handled. But you don't try to convince them. You simply remain who you are. And then something interesting happens. Time itself starts to feel different. What once felt slow begins to move faster. What once felt stuck begins to open. Not because you forced it, but because you finally stopped resisting it. What once felt blocked starts to ease, not all at once, but in a steady and natural way. The shift isn't dramatic, but it's consistent. And the reason is simple. Your relationship with time has changed. You're no longer thinking in terms of waiting. Instead, you feel that things are already unfolding. So you move differently. You stop checking, stop forcing, stop questioning every step of the process. You just exist in it. You understand now that being unbothered doesn't mean you've lost your desires. It means you've let go of the desperation tied to them. You still have goals. You still see clearly what you want. But now you hold those desires lightly, not tightly. There's confidence instead of pressure. And because of that, what you want has space to come to you. You no longer mistake constant effort for real progress. You take action when it feels right, when there's a natural pull to move. And when it's time to pause, you allow yourself to rest without guilt. You trust that both action and stillness serve a purpose when they come from alignment. You begin to notice a rhythm in life that was always there, but you couldn't hear it before because your mind was too loud. Now, being calm tunes you into that rhythm. You stop pushing against life and start flowing with it. And that flow feels effortless, like it was always meant to be this way. You start to understand something powerful. What people call miracles aren't disruptions in reality. They are a natural result of inner consistency. When someone stays grounded and steady long enough, things begin to fall into place. To a restless mind, it looks extraordinary. But to a calm mind, it feels expected. It feels like something that was already in progress finally showing up. So you stay committed to this way of being. Not perfectly, but consistently. When old habits come back, you don't judge yourself. You simply notice and return to your center. Every time you do that, you strengthen this new version of yourself. Over time, this calm identity becomes stronger than any temporary situation. You trust it, you settle into it. You stop questioning whether it will hold because it already feels solid within you. Being unbothered is no longer something you try to reach when things go wrong. It becomes your foundation at all times. And from that place, the way you see everything begins to change. You notice how one calm decision naturally leads to another. How choosing not to react in one moment prevents a chain of unnecessary problems. How staying centered keeps things from spiraling. You realize that being unbothered isn't about stepping away from life. It's about fully showing up without losing yourself in it. You begin to trust life instead of resisting it. You stop fighting every situation. And because of that, life responds with a kind of ease that builds over time. Even uncertainty starts to feel different. It no longer feels like something to fear. It feels open, full of possibility. You approach the unknown with curiosity instead of anxiety. You keep moving through life without tension. You let emotions pass without turning them into stories. You let thoughts come and go without believing every single one. You let situations unfold without rushing to label them. This ability to allow becomes one of your greatest strengths. And the deeper you settle into it, the more your reality begins to reflect the calm certainty you carry inside. So hold on to this, not as something that fades after a moment of motivation, but as something you live daily. The moment you stop reacting to everything you see, life begins to shift for you. Not because you forced it, not because you struggled for it, but because you became steady within yourself. Being unbothered isn't avoidance, it's mastery. It's choosing to trust what you feel inside over what things look like on the outside. It's resting in certainty instead of constantly searching for reassurance. When you stop letting circumstances control your peace, those same circumstances begin to organize themselves around your calm. This is where effort turns into alignment, where waiting turns into quiet knowing, where what once felt rare becomes natural. So stay calm, stay grounded, stay whole within yourself, and watch how reality begins to reflect that state back to you with complete consistency. Everything comes down to this quiet shift within you. When you stop reacting, stop forcing, and start trusting, life begins to move with you instead of against you. Your calm becomes your power, your certainty becomes your direction, and your inner state becomes the force shaping everything around you. You realize nothing was ever missing, only your alignment with it. Stay grounded in that truth and watch how effortlessly your reality begins to reflect it.